So I have my free skiing ticket.
Okay, guys.
Snowboarding. But 16 years of skiing, so about actually.
All right, whoever just popped in, let's do another sound check. This time I'll actually wait to make sure people can hear me and no background noise before I start talking to myself for 35 minutes. So let me know, guys, if this is better. I think we might, I just was an issue with the computer recognizing the external microphone of the last pair of headphones I had on, so.
Forward skiers and snowboards, yeah, to get up and on. In Colorado. And to transport the food and like. Lifty. Yeah, we'll have lifties too, but there are seaters where you have to like sit down. Yeah, sit down.
Okay, all right. Yeah, there is some people in the background. Not much I can do about that, but as long as you guys can hear me better, that's a positive. I'll take that as a plus. Okay, so all right, I'm going to give this a second because we had roughly 50 people live just a minute ago, so I want most of those people to reconnect before I start my little mea culpa again. So let's let that roll. If you guys like, I can go over some of these news stories while we wait. If not, I think we can just wait a few minutes here, 2 minutes. And then once we have a majority of those people back in the room, I'll go ahead and kick this off again. So Davos, well, Davos, I would describe from a crypto standpoint, blockchain standpoint, I would describe as every other conference I've ever been to. Just the ratio of, let's say, high caliber people to low caliber people is higher. Obviously, it's a bit more of a show, a lot more security. People spend more money on their setting up their image here than they do elsewhere. And there is a very high concentration of high net worth individuals, that's for sure, though most of them come in for very specific reasons. It's interesting. It's an interesting, I would say it's an interesting week for sure, and lots of interesting conversations. Regardless of lots of business development is definitely something I think that is rather easy to get done here. Yep, did avoid the snipers. Haven't gotten shot yet, so we'll hope that continues for the next day or so until I get out of here. Yeah, well, people shitting on Bitcoin, that's like a Tuesday, right? I mean, when you get a lot of government people and politicians and legislators and people that made a lot of money in old industry, they're going to shit on new industry. That's par for the course, really. If you had been at Davos, if you had been at Davos back in the 70s and the 80s, oh, forget Davos in the early 90s, you think they didn't shit on the internet? They shit on the internet, that's for sure. Now they're all using it and filtering it to make sure that nobody's running terrorist attacks in Davos. So at the end of the day, something new getting shit on is kind of, I don't know, just like I said, par for the course. What is my ideal vegan breakfast? Well, actually, breakfast is the one meal of the day that I'm actually not fully vegan. I do eat eggs, mainly because when I travel, if you pay €35 for a buffet at a Holiday Inn, in like Mashantucket, Pequot County or something, you're going to end up eating lettuce leaves and cherry tomatoes. So I do eat eggs actually, but if you're talking about vegan breakfast, I would say fully vegan breakfast, probably some type of like avocado toast would probably be my ideal vegan breakfast. There is another mic streaming out of some kitchen. There's another mic streaming out of some kitchen. Can you clarify what that means? I don't know. Is that like another mic streaming out of some kitchen? I don't really know what that means. It means like Is there literally another mic connected here? Is that what you're trying to tell me? All right, guys. So there's another streaming mic. How do you see that, by the way? CoinMetro Jet. Yeah, the CoinMetro Jet. We like to call the CoinMetro Jet Easy Jet. That's what we call it. Okay. The noise. Okay, well, let me see here. Let me see if I can move to another location here. I'll try to make this. There is a kitchen behind me, by the way. So. I thought you meant there was like another mic connected that was called the kitchen. That was kind of confusing. All right. Hey, hold on. I'm going to hunt a spot. So, maybe back here. I may be able to lock myself in this room back here. This may work. Let's see. Okay, guys. Hopefully, this is going to work out. Let's see. Let's see how we do this here. Back here. All right. So, hopefully, we don't get a lot of background noise here. So, sorry about this, guys. It's just I'm in Davos. I'm at someone's home. Actually, I'm in a chalet here in Davos. Hotel prices in Davos are monstrously ridiculous. They do have a bomb shelter, actually, but I'm pretty sure Wi-Fi in the bomb shelter is going to be, pretty bad. Okay, cool, much better. Okay, so let me get back. I'm gonna butt out of the questions here that come in. When live public launch, I'll come back to that, Gerardo. All right, I'm gonna. Yeah, well, right now I actually pay the hotels here. I stayed at a hotel here in November that was about 200 euros a night. It should have been 60, and they charge 1,800 euro a night during the WEF. So there you go. All right, I'm going to come back to these questions in a little, guys. I want to get back to my mea culpa that I rambled on for 35 minutes where no one could hear me. So the point is that normally we have an agenda here. Everybody knows that's here frequently. And I wanted to go off that agenda a bit. I got a phone call today from an old advisor of ours, a friend of mine, and he kind of went right to the bone, so to speak. Some of the comments he made really hit home. And I've last month or so, I've been traveling quite extensively, mainly for fundraising. Some other travel mixed in is there as well. Business development, business development has actually been going quite well, but without the fundraising to back it up, business development is hard to accomplish. But the point is that I've been traveling a lot, and we don't have a COO right now in the company, and I'd love to say that I'm Superman. There's a meme of me being Superman. Unfortunately, I haven't. I'm still human, unfortunately, but there is we are lacking some internal oversight, and what happens with that is that internal communication. We've had an issue that's kind of morphed its way through the company since almost the beginning, where as we expanded, people would kind of put themselves into silos, and we'd have marketing in a silo, customer support in a silo, tech in a silo, and the communication internally wasn't as good as it should have been, which meant that external communication wasn't as good as it should have been, and that goes all the way up to the top. I'm not blaming anyone in particular. It's my fault, and to be honest, it is my fault because I'm the leader here. I'm the engineer of the train. I'm the one that's supposed to make sure that these things don't happen. So at the end of the day, they did happen, and we made changes, and I think we have improved. I mean, we really do have a great team, guys. I don't say that because I want everybody to I don't know, just trying to put out an image that we really do have a great team, and I consider everybody that I work with to be of quite high caliber, and it pains me when I see messages because, I know everybody doesn't have full visibility, right? And sometimes, to be honest, even I don't have full visibility because I might be traveling, might be doing something. I might be involved in something else. When I was younger, I thought I could multitask, right? And multitasking was great. As I got older, I realized that if you focus on more than a few things at once, you don't really put 100% in anything. So unfortunately, when I'm, fundraising or I'm going after business development, that's my core focus. And it can be difficult for me to move my core focus to something else. Even though I'm not saying I can't, I'm just saying it's difficult. Like it's just difficult for me. It's not something that comes easily anymore. So, what happens is that you lose a little bit of touch. And these issues kind of morph. So while you solve one pain point, 3 or 4 more pain points come out. And that communication issue has been at the crux of many issues that we've had, from missing deadlines to having Telegram saying one thing and support saying another, having development that comes and tells us that we expect to have this ready on a certain date. And then internally on the development team, adjusting those dates, assuming that everyone's going to see a Trello board or they're going to see an Asana post, and they don't. And then the messaging continues on the old messaging, and then et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, I've put some time into work on this, and I see that it needs to be a priority, and it needs to be priority number one. And while fundraising is super important, because obviously without money, we're going to get to a point here where we're going to have to stop operations and continue to fundraise until we have money to continue operations. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to reach that point. But definitely this communication thing needs to be on the front burner. And we need to act on this. I need to act on this. I need to focus on this. So the main thing that this person that called me really was focusing on was minting. It was communication, but let's say that the topic of the communication was minting. And, back in December, we said we would do it before the 31st. And I have to be honest with you that what I'm going to tell you now, this is where we stand. Let me tell you where we stand now, and I'll go back and explain the December and January deadlines. So where we stand now is this. Back in December, we had one issue, and that one issue with minting was revolving around a technical issue. So we, up to this point, have been using BitGo wallets. And BitGo wallets, BitGo now does list tokens, but they have to be vetted through BitGo, and BitGo chooses who they want to list. And they don't tell you right off the bat if they're going to list you or not. And to do that, we need to put the contract on the mainnet as well. So we have to get the contract on the mainnet. One particular issue there is that our contract was created using a more centralized methodology than most coins use or most tokens use, mainly because we're an exchange, and there's only one venue where you can actually buy or sell this token. Let's say in a centralized exchange or semi-centralized exchange, and that's CoinMetro. So there was little reason to go to a fully decentralized model, at least initially. But that doesn't fit well with BitGo's architecture, actually, which means that we would need our own Ether wallet to be able to do this. Now, we didn't know this initially. This kind of came out when we were going through the launch in December. And so that pushed back from a technical capability from the fact that we were going to have to make some changes to the contract. But does it make sense to make changes to the contract? At the end of the day, we need to create a wallet system anyway. So at that point, we started putting a lot more onus on getting our own wallet system up, our own Ether wallet system up. Why? Well, one, we're going to need it in the future anyway to be able to list multiple assets on the Ethereum blockchain, right? And at least as of today, most of these alternative assets that exist on the blockchain exist on the Ethereum blockchain. So we needed to do this anyway. So we started to put more emphasis on this, though it's still, we have one full-time guy that works on this wallet system, and we've had him since December. The wallet system at this point is still not fully completed. We don't expect it to be completed until February 15th. That's the latest update from within an hour and a half ago when I talked to my CTO. I have no idea how we assumed, and I say we, I mean collectively CoinMetro assumed that this would be done in December. If we at some point in December knew, or at least speculated on the fact that we were going to have to create our own wallet system. That pains me. That kind of pisses me off, to be honest. And it's something that I'll investigate internally and figure out how that exactly happened. Look, guys, I'm not a developer. I'm not a one-man show. I don't do everything by myself. And in conjunction with these, let's say, communication issues, when I get information, I'm a pretty transparent guy. I would give 100% of the information I receive on a daily basis to everyone that I possibly could. If it was feasible. Obviously, GDPR and some legal things bar me from giving some information. But so what happens is I get information. I'm told from our CTO one thing, or I'm told from one of our developers, or I'm given a date by marketing because they got it from somebody else, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm eager to give that date out. I want that date to be spread. I want to be transparent. And when there's an issue and someone tells me, I want that issue to be transparent. So, this is, I guess, a problem when it comes to true transparency, is that I don't necessarily go and filter the information first. I just want it out there. But sometimes that information ends up being information that probably should have been vetted first. And we get, again, into this communication loop where we're giving out information. So in January, the wallet was initially suspected to be done. However, in January, there were some updates. There was things the guy that was working on the wallet system was basically pulled off to work on some other blockchain tech that we needed to complete for some other reasons, basically to bring some revenue into the company, and a third-party app but a third-party service that we're creating to bring in some immediate revenue. So that was considered a priority at the time. That's what we did. But that pulled him off the project, right? The other thing is that outside of that, the wallet app, it's about we've given a lot of dates publicly and we've missed many of those dates, right? So internally, people are a bit scared to give dates. And the problem with that is that we need a date, right? We can't just keep kicking the can down the road. We definitely need a date. So people are a bit hesitant to give dates. Now, I don't have a date for you today, but what I can say is that the end of January, there's one option for the end of January, right? Or roughly the end of January. And I'm not asking for opinions today. If you have them, please give them to me. I'd love to hear them. We're not going to do another poll. I'm not going to go through that. We will have an internal meeting, board meeting on Monday or Tuesday of this coming week. And we will discuss this and I'll make a decision and I will come back with that decision. But here's the thing. We can make XCM tradable virtually, meaning that the virtual XCM that sits in your wallets right now, we can unlock that, allow you to trade it probably against the euro initially, then eventually BTC, Ether, crosses, etc. You'll be able to trade. If there's a buyer on the other side, you can sell, vice versa. And you can liquidate euro or some other cryptocurrency. But we would do this without actually minting because the minting process needs the wallets, and the wallets probably won't be available till February, mid-February. So this would allow people to trade, exit if they want to exit, buy some if they want to buy some, etc. But it would mean you can't withdraw that XCM because it would remain virtual until the wallet system is up and running. So that's an option, and I think it might be a valuable option. There's also the thing, do we keep this current contract we have that basically creates multiple vaults that centralizes the tokens under CoinMetro ownership? So we have a vault, let's say, for shareholder tokens that has specific rule sets for the vetting for shareholder tokens. Those go there. They're minted and they all go there. There's another vault that has tokens that are subject to vesting for clients. All those tokens go there. We have another vault or another wallet that has tokens for advisors. They all go there, etc. And then from there, we distribute at a later date when requested, somebody goes in and actually wants to withdraw the token and the wallet system is available, then we move the tokens outward of the system. So that's how the contract is set up now. And we basically did that. And I know it's different than pretty much every other contract out there, but we did that because, we're already working in a semi-centralized marketplace. So it seems to be the best option to use that type of same semi-centralized mentality. Though it does heighten risk a bit, that's for sure, because we're basically holding these things on our own vaults until they're actually requested. But what it does stop is from having to go through another admin thing where we're going to have to ask people to upload their Ether addresses. We're going to have to run them through chain analysis and do know your transaction. We may have questions. We may have to go through the plan. And that's the two things that have to be debated at this coming board meeting. So my goal is to mint as soon as humanly possible. It's also going to help us from a business standpoint. We've actually run into a few issues because we haven't minted. And contrary to popular belief, we haven't done this because of the market. No way, shape, or form has the market price or the value of the market cap of the crypto market as a whole played any role in our decision up to this point to not start this, let's say, feasibility of minting sooner. It's always had to do with just a technical roadmap, the amount of resources we have. And 2 weeks ago, we actually got a letter from the FSA here in Estonia, who basically are questioning the jurisdiction in which we already did our ICO and whether it's a security or not. Now, the jurisdiction aspect is pretty easy to get around. Why? Because while we didn't do our ICO in Estonia, we did it in Hong Kong under a Hong Kong company that is not even part of the group of companies that resides in Estonia. I think that that's a relatively easy issue to disband. The second issue, however, now we do have legal opinions in Estonia, one from PwC that says that our token is not a security. However, if the FSA decides that it is a security, it means that we cannot list it as an Estonian based exchange until we have an MTF license, which would mean Q3, Q4 this year. And that's painful. So it's important that we file a robust, and we will file before the deadline, which I believe is mid next week. We will file our response, a robust response, response that will basically detail the fact that the jurisdictional question is not really a question, and that under legal opinion, we are not a security, and why we're not a security. However, there is a chance that they say we are a security, and that's something that I can't control, unfortunately. Now, this is a relatively new thing. We got the letter, I think, 10 days ago, and our head of legal, myself, and our compliance department have been working to put together the response and make sure that we push all the legal points home to ensure that they understand the fact that we are not a security under Estonian guidelines, and that outside of that fact, we did not do an ICO in Estonia. There was absolutely no issuing or minting or anything done in Estonia. So having said that, from a legal standpoint, it's actually beneficial that we haven't minted yet. Had we minted and they came with the same action, they would have the power to basically shut us down or freeze the entire operations until, but because there are no operations concerning XCM yet, and they don't have that feasibility. So I'm not saying that, no one in hindsight, hindsight's 2020, but forward thinking is never 2020. So I'm not saying that we knew this was going to happen and this is why we didn't move through this process sooner, but just to show you that this market is quite fluid. And I know that, again, from the outside looking in, there's a lot of things that aren't seen. It's not because we're not transparent enough to tell you what's going on. There's just always a lot of things that are going on multiple fronts. So look, guys, point of this whole conversation is that I accept that there's been mistakes, and those mistakes are on me. I'm the CEO. This is my train. I'm supposed to be the one that kind of pushes this thing home, makes sure it stays on the track. Yeah, I have to make some adjustments, that's for sure, and I will. This is my main focus, right? CoinMetro is what I do. I don't focus anywhere else. I'm not here. I didn't, I don't know, take a bunch of money from the ICO personally, and I'm, set for life. Or, there is no alternative motive here. The only way forward for me is get this thing off the ground, get it running, and expand the business. That's it. But that doesn't mean that, these things, I like to be transparent, sometimes being too transparent, to be quite honest. But we've made lots of strides. And I think if you look at, while we have faltered a bit, we've made lots of strides, and we really do have a great product and a great team. And the vision we have for how this type of product is going to change the market, I think, is rather unique. And we will get there. We will get there, guys. And I appreciate everybody that's been here, that's been supportive. I even appreciate the guys that aren't supportive. Look, great questions are great questions. I don't really care what side of the aisle they come from, so to speak. And I know people are frustrated. I am frustrated. If I was one of you, I would be frustrated. In fact, I did invest in contribute to two ICOs as a test case, and they both went way off track from where they should have been. So yeah, I get it, guys. I understand. I'm going to be more active now on Telegram. I'm going to come back. I'm going to try to make it like it was in the past. I'm going to try to spend several hours a day there. I'm going to monitor. I really want to get back into the community. The community is very important to me. You guys, 15,000 of you that are on Telegram, utterly important to the success of this company. And I don't want you to feel that I don't care or that I'm just too busy. I will make time. And I see that I definitely need to do that. And the team, CoinMetro as a whole, everybody that's there, from our shareholders down to every single employee, I really feel this as a family, friends and family. I don't. It pains me when people make comments or disparage people in the team because they just don't see the full picture. People make mistakes, things happen. Communication, like I said, needs to be worked on. But we really do have a fantastic team, my goal is to make sure that you guys, so the community, you guys realize that and you know that. And the only way we can do that is to start making this thing a success and really get this thing pumping. And that's my goal every day. And I don't want to go too far down the emotional track here, but that's it, guys. I want to mint. I'd like to mint today. We can't mint today, unfortunately. We have a few decisions that need to be made. I'm sure some people with the centralization of our smart contracts are going to be a bit, I don't know, maybe upset. I'm sure some people will be upset that there's a bit of a further delay. I'm upset that there's a bit of a further delay. But this, to be honest, to solve this minting issue, I need to solve the communication issue. Communication issue being solved means that we become more transparent and we're more agile with our communications. You know, if it's as simple as before you say anything, ask. You know, if you're a guy on Telegram, you know, if you work for the Amazix team, if you work for our company, if you're a guy in marketing, guy in support, if you don't know that the answer you're giving is 100% up to date, ask. I'd rather have a client wait for a response than get an incorrect one. And if you see, if you're on the outside, or even on the inside, or you're even on the outside, and you see a response that you believe is inaccurate, speak up. I'd rather have someone speak up and say, I don't think that's accurate, and put someone on the spot, to be quite honest. This could also be done per private message, obviously, but I'd rather have that situation than have a situation where there are things being posted or commented that just are no longer factual. And look, I'm not saying I haven't done it myself. Sometimes you do get in a silo. You get really, really focused on something. And, you know, because you told one person on Slack or Asana or Trello or whatever you believe that everybody else knows, it's just, I don't mean to like have an internal CoinMetro training session here. But I just want you guys to know that it's something that, look, we have been working on, and it is better than it was, but it's still not the way it should be. And it needs to be a priority. And that making that a priority will make everything else fall better into line. Okay, so I'm going to ask you guys, let me go back and see if there's any questions here. Let's see. So Guy mentioning also you can't start tracing transactions back. Many people send Ether directly from other exchanges, and CM's crowd sale allowed that. The virtual token is the only way to go for you guys. Yeah, when I say trade, I don't necessarily mean, I just mean in order to verify that the person giving us the new wallet address was actually the contributor. It's more of a, it's not necessarily tracing back and using the same wallet. But you're right. I do think virtual is the best way to go, at least till we go through the minting. It allows us to get trading done much quicker. Ginger Croc saying that no one will give us their Ether history. Well, they don't have to. We can get that. It's public information. What movie are you, as Alexander mentioned, he's thinking of a Netflix movie. Get me in on the joke. I have no idea what that movie is. Virtual minting and actual minting, Krispy Kreme. So virtual minting can happen within a week to 10 days, maybe even less. Actual minting would be somewhere between 2 to probably 3 weeks after that, because it's the time it would take us basically to finalize the contract, get the thing done, and then move forward. So weeks, it would be a pair to 3 weeks. Alexander saying it's been a long year. Yeah, it's been an extremely long year, Alexander, but we made it through it. Maybe we didn't make it through it as best as we could have, but we made it through it. And I think that says a bit about who we are and where we stand, at least a little bit. Matt, I think virtual minting is a lot better than not minting at all. Do you think the exchange is ready for such large amounts of volume that will come from minting happens? Yeah, I think the volume from, I mean, I don't know how much actual volume we'll see. We'll see a volume of transactions. The actual volume in and of itself shouldn't be all that large. And remember, it is a matching engine. So people selling do need buyers in order to execute their trades. Don't have external liquidity for XCM. How is CM doing cash flow wise? Cash flow wise, we're on a pretty tight string right now. Obviously, we're doing fundraising. We have some committed funds that are coming in mid-February. Which, if we didn't have those committed funds, we would run into some issues with our current burn rate, which we've drastically reduced from our high burn rate. But we would start to have problems with our burn rate towards the end of February into March. So we're on a pretty tight leash, but we do have commitments, rather stable commitments that come in. For the next couple of months, I think we're going to be month to month, to be quite honest. It's going to be a month to month thing as we start to roll out a few more services, margin trading, as we start to bring in a bit more revenue. We have some additional revenue that we're bringing from some other things, some KYC, some integrations that we haven't really made public yet, but they're kind of private, not private, but they're custom tuned solutions where we can bring in some revenue right now for the company. So we're working on many different angles, but cash flow is a bit tight, that's for sure. And that's why I'm traveling so much. That's why I'm here. That's why I've been in many other places the past 20, 30 days. You asked if you should be worried. That depends. Some people get worried when when businesses have cash flow that will last, I don't know, 18 months from the current date. Some people get worried at 12, some get worried at 6. Many startups, the vast majority, work on a month-to-month, every 2 months. I mean, sometimes when you have to raise capital, almost every big company, there's stories. Jeff Bezos has a famous story when he had to raise $1 million and he got 20 people for about $50K each. And last day he was able to close the last one, and he would have lost the business, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I've done fundraising in my life before, private fundraising for different businesses. It usually always comes right at the last minute. Fundraising can be quite difficult. It doesn't matter how good your product is, how good your team is, how well you sell it. There's always somebody else selling something else. And sometimes you're not the best salesman, and that's it. And then sometimes these deals just take time. They can take 2 or 3, 4, or 5 months to close. And if you need money in 2 months, well, a 5-month deal isn't really going to help you today. So you don't focus on it, then maybe you lose it. So it's a tough game, not just because it's crypto. It really has nothing to do with it, but it's just a tough game all in all. But I remain confident. And I'm out here every day, and I will continue to be out every day. I'm going to speak on a panel in Paris on the 31st and the 1st. I have some additional traveling that I'm going to be doing. It is what it is, guys. But regardless, even if we ran out of cash, the company would continue. We might have to cease operations for a bit. The worst case scenario would be the exchange would basically not function. We go to demo mode, and we'd spend the money as it came in on development and develop more and more of the core structure. And then once we were able to receive enough money to get back into operations, we would do so. I don't expect that to happen, but it's not an end game. Let's put it that way. But it definitely would slow us down to some extent. And Ginger Croc, yeah, that was the case. That was the case. But unfortunately, that was the case basically right during the ICO, going out of the ICO before we got our banking in order. Even if we would liquidated everything the day we had the banking in place, we would have had about 50% of what we raised, a little less than 50% actually. And we ended up actually pulling out darn near close to that. Because a lot of money was pulled out initially, and then over time we pulled out money on every month, 2 months, every month, every couple week basis. So actually the average that we got out at is not so substantially lower than the low that was there when we had the ability to actually cash out. So that was a true statement when it was made. Unfortunately, that statement fluctuated with the market value of the assets we were holding, which were mostly Ethereum. Deposit withdrawals are manually approved. Yep, 100%. I think that may always be the case, though they will get more automated over time once we're able to have some type of machine learning as we have more and more data on what deposits and withdrawals are higher risk. So right now they are manually approved. Will you release a breakdown of your spending in the spirit of transparency? Have you spent all the millions of dollars raised? Yeah, we can release that without any problem whatsoever. We collectively cashed out, I think, somewhere between about 4.5 million euro. That's about what the cash out value. Our burn rate at one point was about 300,000 euro a month. We had obviously extra expenses on the outside of just the monthly burn rate, for sure. I can guarantee you that you won't find anything in there that would raise any real alarm bells. No one was over, we had, I guess we did have one employee that made a substantially higher salary than most, but that was for a reason, because it was a key role, at least initially, to get banking and everything else set up. Outside of that, though, we're just talking about a decent sized staff. We're talking about lots of money thrown into development. But yeah, and we will do that for sure. I'm not saying we're going to do it today, but yes, it will be done. There's nothing to hide there. Yeah, 2 years of runway was based on what we raised in crypto, the euro value at the time of the raise. Unfortunately, by the time we were able to cash out, the vast majority of that crypto had fallen by about 55%. And obviously now we're at 90%. And we still were holding certain amounts of Ethereum for the most part up until recently, somewhat recently. So that's how it happened. So those 2 years of runway, we ramped up based on 10 million to find out that we only raised half. Then we had to slowly bring that back down. But you're at a point sometimes where as you ramp up, you need to keep that amount, especially most of it was on development, right? So most of that money being spent on development needed to stay for a bit so we could ramp down, so that we didn't really push extreme delays, much more than we already had on our plate. So. Yeah, guys, I'm going to skip over the news. I'm going to breeze through here on the Reddit questions to see if something hasn't been covered. So Jasper Place asked on Reddit, will CoinMetro front run customers? No. How does being regulated exchange help the customers? How does it help the customers? That it ensures more longevity. At some point here in probably 2019, I think especially into 2020, regulation is going to become much more stringent than you currently see it in the market. Exchanges that are not regulated can face seizures, they can face bank account closures, they can face government shutting them down, and they can face prosecution. So all that means frozen assets on the customer side. And if they haven't been doing what they're supposed to be doing with Know Your Transaction and linking transactions to clients, that money may be lost forever, especially on centralized exchanges. So it definitely helps customers. You may not see that now, but regulated and more broadly, regulated markets bring in maturity. Maturity brings in liquidity. Liquidity brings in larger players. Larger players expand the market. Larger player that reduces volatility, and it basically behooves everyone. It is a benefit to everyone involved, customers, businesses, etc. So. Can you give us an approximate order of priority of the main upcoming features to be rolled out? Serendipity is me. No dates. Thank you for that. Yeah, off the top of my head, we have margin trading and lending, which is current on the open platform, the demo side. That's one. There's a revamp along with that of the platform. Intermediate is going to get some new features, and trade is going to be where the margin lending and sits. So that's the one that is being worked on the most. We finally got a solid legal opinion about our tokenized asset management module, that it doesn't actually currently require legislation or regulation. So we're going to start working on that as well. That's another priority. Obviously, right now, priority kind of sits around minting and getting the wallet. So I guess minting wallet is priority number one. Priority number two is rolling out new feature sets, making these changes on the platforms, bringing out the margin lending, which will induce more volumes. And then as well, moving on to additional feature sets down the road. See some people having login issues with 2FA. When is it going to be fixed? There's been a few fixes already on 2FA, so I'd have to know a little bit more. But the best way to go about that is just make sure you're in direct contact with our support team. And they're going to make sure they're in direct contact with our devs. And I'll make sure that they follow up. So, but I have seen several updates where different 2FA issues were fixed. Some for individual clients and some that were, let's say, affecting a larger swath of clients. I'm just reading. So Serenity asked me to post this. This is posted from Pascal Navi on Reddit. After those delays, it's clear that XAM will be dumped hard upon launch. Even Kevin stated, in fact, on the AMA, which led me into asking a few days ago if we, the contributors, would be rewarded for funding CoinMetro to accomplish the platform. Buy order upon launch so the coin doesn't fall heavily in price. Currently, every contributor receives 20% lifetime fee discount as a reward for being a contributor, which is 7% at 1%. Won't it be fair to reward the contributor all those delays with a lifetime 0% fee, or should every contributor lose 9% of the contribution? Thanks. Well, first of all, it's a bit of speculation on 90%. In order to lose 90%, I'll give you some easy math. Let's say you contributed at 7 cents. We list it at 15. Obviously, it's not going to be at 15, but hear me out. That's a 2 times multiplier, okay? But now taking the fact that the average contribution, let's say on Ether, was roughly 900 euro. Current Ether value is about 100 euro. That's a 9x multiplier. You need to multiply that 9x multiplier by your 2x multiplier. It's an 18x multiplier. That means in order to hit break even, the coin would have to fall basically by roughly You'd have to go, let's say, even at a penny, roughly even at a penny, at 1/15th, you would still be in profit. Okay, below a penny, you'd have to probably go something to maybe 0.4 of a cent, 0.5 of a 0.6 of a cent, until you start to actually lose some realm of profitability. So even at a 90% loss, let's say from 15 cents down to whatever, 2 cents, whatever that 90% loss is, 1.5 cents, you would still actually be in profit. Most people would be. I think even, to be honest, people that bought in at 12 cents, depending on their average contribution, would still be in profit at that point. So a very slight profit. So first of all, let's not speculate on what the possible fall could be. Plus, that's assuming you want to sell day one, day two, month one. As people are selling, remember they're inducing transactions which induce XCM buying. And as we start to do marketing, as we bring in funds to do that and expand on our marketing, we're going to be pushing buy orders into the system. Will we place a buy order? If I would, I could. We don't have the capital to do so. Individuals inside CoinMetro more than likely will be buying. I know some people internally will probably look to see where they can buy. I know even people externally that will look to buy, especially once certain price points are met. So would we? Yes. Can we? No, we can't. If we did that, then we'd be pulling money out of the money we need to actually run operations. As far as a 0% fee, look, I don't want anybody to be left with a bad taste in their mouth, right? That's not the goal. The goal was not to do this, to raise it. If we raise a platform that works, no one will be at a loss if they have the patience and the fortitude to wait. If you invested in Amazon day one, and on day one of a private listing before it went public on a public exchange, like a penny stock, you would have lost money. Had you held on to that, obviously you wouldn't have. Apple, same thing. IBM, same thing. Microsoft, same thing. So, I don't want people to lose money, but if somebody wants to dump day one, and I know there's been delays, but if somebody wants to dump day one, there's not much I can do to support that. What I can say is there's a huge cushion that people don't realize based on the average contribution price had you held on to that Ether versus the actual value of the XCM, whether it falls or not. So that needs to be taken into account. Okay, so we have Hamtaro 59. He's got a few questions here. I'm going to try to skim through this because, guys, it's almost been an hour. I know 30 minutes was wasted, but I'm still here in Davos. In 40 minutes, I have several meetings with investors, and I need to prepare a bit. So I'm going to try to run through this as fast as I can. So basic context, Amazix, that they're a great team, but they're not CoinMetro. And this is part of the communication problem. And it's something that we will need to fix, and it's something that I will look to fix. I'm going to be back in the office on Monday. I'm traveling to Paris for a few days, but my core focus is going to be fixing this communication problem. And Amazix doesn't create the problem, but the problem gets exemplified because of our own internal communication back and forth with Amazix, and that needs to be fixed. So talking about devs, talking about devlogs, that they want to see devlogs version numbers, which we do have. They actually were visible at one point in the URL when they used to be on the open side of the platform. They are visible to us. You're right, they're not visible to the public. I'm not sure if that helps or doesn't help, but it is something we could look into for sure. And you're right, there needs to be more, again, a communication issue. There needs to be more outward communication on what's been fixed, the change log, etc. And it's something that I will look into as well. Okay, and then we're talking about deadlines and roadmap. So there's here's the EO trade that was mentioned. They're based in Estonia. They are licensed. So let's not, okay, well, they're licensed. They have minted. They have a fiat gateway. They're a cross-platform app. 31 pairs. Okay, so the fact I looked at some of the pairs actually briefly, and some of those are considered securities by what is the actual regulator in Estonia. So no, they're not 100% compliant. I haven't looked at their entire setup. They have the same licenses we do in Estonia. Anybody can get those licenses. I've said that before. We actually helped the finance minister redraft those licenses. So there will be many changes coming up in March. We'll see if EO Trade will be able to meet those changes or if they will not be able to meet those changes. We've already met them and we've exceeded them. Look, it has taken us too long. I 100% agree. We were focused on certain things that changed over time. And it's something that if I could go back, I probably would make some changes. But at the end of the day, just because someone does something quicker doesn't mean they do it better. Just because they're doing it doesn't mean they're doing it correctly. And just because they're in the market and they're operating does not mean they're compliant. Saving money on a development is a huge mistake. I agree with you, but when you get to a certain extent, there are other things. Development isn't the only issue here. There are things that also require money. And if you pull money out of any one of the strategic pieces, whether that's regulatory, whether that's development, or whether that's marketing, etc., you run the risk of failure. If you have a great product, no marketing, no one knows it's there. If you have a shitty product, like really good marketing, you may actually do well. So there's different caveats, but I agree with you that development is probably one where you don't want to pull money from, but there's also other points in the system that you don't want to pull money from either. Minting, I already covered. Correct. We are, and talking about pairs and wallets, we are, February, mid-February, we're targeting to have our own wallet, which will allow us to list additional tokens. Though NEO may or may not be considered a security in Estonia, which means MTF license may be required. Now, somebody else may list it, but again, we're looking to be fully compliant, not compliant based on the current licenses we hold, which essentially is, do KYC and AML. Anybody can do that. That doesn't make you fully compliant. And the fact that there's no regulation written that says crypto asset in it does not mean that these assets that are, by every other definition, a security, a bond, a convertible note, whatever, are not actually regulated. So if you treat them as unregulated, that doesn't, and even though there's no specific legislation around these crypto assets, does not mean that you're not taking a substantial regulatory risk. Okay, and then just some comments on the word of the week, saying there's a word of the year soon. Yeah, guys, look, again, we need to tighten the ship a bit in a few areas, and that's my goal. And I hope over the next coming weeks, you're going to see that ship tighten. And I just hope the guys that were the most critical are the ones that will really get the most analytical and understand and see those changes and come back and comment on them in the future. Wow. Okay, this is a ridiculous comment. So I'm going to read this one. The general consensus on the internet is that this is the single greatest scam that's ever occurred in crypto. Mt. Gox and BitConnect are pennies in the bucket compared to this massive bag of trash. My question is, how can you live with yourself? Are you powered by Satan? Is the minting delay forehand related? All right, so Mt. Gox was something like, I think, close to $500 million at some point. BitConnect was in the same realm. We raised 10 million, cashed out 4.5 and spent it. Okay, I don't even know what to comment on that, but I limit myself because I work every day at making this business work. Obviously, from the outside, I guess, I don't know. You have a different opinion, and that's fine. You can have a different opinion. It was the minting delay forehead related. I think what you mean is, did we plan this the whole time? No, not at all. It was never planned. It has nothing to do with the market sentiment. It has everything to do with what I already explained, which is technical and now a bit of regulatory hurdle that needs to be passed. So that's it. Red moons. Where the fuck is my money? All right. Look, guys. I'm usually a pretty straightforward guy. But when you ask me a question like that in all caps, I just don't answer it. So come back and ask me an educated question. I'll give an educated answer. How's that? Robin Timmerman just asking on ETFs. All the ETFs filings have been rejected. What influences have? Absolutely nothing, because we're not trying to list our ETF on a publicly traded exchange as far as an actual exchange, let's say NASDAQ, et cetera. Well, not NASDAQ, but you get my point. So nothing. These are internal exchange traded funds on our exchange that are traded on our exchange that include crypto and eventually non-crypto assets. So it has absolutely nothing to do. And you're going to continue to see, by the way, those ETFs not coming to market. So don't try to get used to that one, because that's going to be par for the course for quite some time. Okay, let me go back to these questions here on So Matt's asking if we have a dedicated team in Estonia. Actually, none of our developers sit in Estonia, not because we haven't tried to do so. It's just been difficult for us to actually source developers from Estonia. So we don't work with necessarily third parties like third-party companies, but we do have remote workers. So we hire people just like we would hire them locally, but they just sit somewhere else. But we are looking to put a development team in Estonia. We actually have 2 possible candidates right now that are going through the process. 3, actually. Matt Leonard, based on financials, could a bad FSA decision and subsequent delay bring the curtain down? It could bring a substantial change. That would mean that we would have to probably stop operations for some time, for a certain amount of time. So basically stop allowing trading on the exchange, focus on development, push out some additional products, and then at that point reestablish the exchange. So it wouldn't bring the curtain down, but it would definitely change the current situation. And Alexander saying, watch the movie. I don't know what the movie is, so give me a title on the movie and I'll see if I can watch it. I think that margin trading will bring good volume initially. Once we have XCM, this should be a priority. It is a priority. It's already on the open side, so we've already developed the engine. It's more of a GUI issue now. I do think XCM mining virtual otherwise should be a priority now. Get it out and out of the way. Yep, same here. I just communicated that to my team as well, and that'll be brought up in our board meeting on Monday or Tuesday of next week. How about having real money accounts for trading with very restrictive settings, no leverage, like some SEN accounts on FX? Well, people can do that, I guess, if they want. I think demo accounts have always been a great lead generator. So it's all about lead generation. So they work great on Forex. They work great on equities. I don't see why they wouldn't work here as well. So that's the general reason. But you can pretty much trade a cent account right now with us for the most part. I mean, you can fine-tune positions down to quite a small sum depending on the asset. Do you need XCM to use the lending feature? No, you don't need XCM to do the lending feature, but fees that are calculated there will be converted to XCM. So there will still be buy pressure inserted into the market from you using any of the services. Virtual is what I'm thinking right now as well, Guy, and that's what's going to be brought up in our board meeting. CM employees, at this point, we're actually looking at drafting the policy of what they can and cannot do. So insider trading hasn't been fully applied to these assets yet, but it will be at some point. There will be restrictions, but they will be able to, under certain restrictions, to more than likely trade XCM. Yes, sell XCM or buy it, but day trade it or something like that, especially based on instant information, will obviously not be possible. Dare I say flash sale? Yeah, flash sale, I think we've kind of knocked that one out of the park. I think I tend to agree now that I'd like to see more buy pressure when we actually launch XCM trading. So I'd like to do some a push around that so that people who want to buy will sit on the exchange and buy from there. It means that the money doesn't come to us directly for sure, but what it does mean is it lessens the bleeding a bit. We own, the company owns a liquidity reserve of XCM as well, so it behooves us to try and keep the market as happy as possible. Will you make a podcast about the news items later? Yes, I believe it will be made. I think that's what we're doing now every week. So, Fry, the greatest party that never happened. Ah, you mean I don't need to watch the movie. I know the story. I guess that was my mea culpa in the front. That I haven't seen the movie, but I can imagine. I would say maybe it reminded you of it, but I think it's a different type of situation. But I know the story quite well. I knew some people that actually had tickets. So, Matt, we support you. Thank Matt. Look, I don't mind. Criticism is fine, and sometimes criticism kind of moves you more than positive vibes, right? It makes you really focus on things. So criticism is fine. And I think some criticism is needed, to be honest, because we've dropped the ball in a few places that we kind of need to pick it back up and start running with it again. But, the easiest way to learn in life, the best way to learn sometimes are failures. Small failures can lead to quite large successes. How long might it take to get a response from the FSA? It should be quite fast, actually. So they're local. I will set a meeting with them as soon as we submit the documents for 2 or 3 days after we submit, and I'll push for a meeting. So I think it'll be quite fast. It could go back and forth for a bit, but we'll see how that plays out. But I think it could be relatively fast. If you add Chainlink, you'll get 4chan biz support. They are dedicated. Chainlink. I'm not sure. I don't even know what Chainlink is. Maybe that's me. But yeah, maybe it's something 41. I don't know what Chainlink is. Thanks, Alexander. Look, I appreciate that 100%. I appreciate that people are still here. And you know, I appreciate the fact of all the support. I even appreciate the negative comments, to be honest. Like I said, sometimes those are the ones that get the ball rolling more than anybody else. So anyway, look, guys, if there's any more questions, please shoot them out. My battery's about to die. I have nowhere to plug in here. And I have about 20 minutes to get ready for these investors that are coming in. So I think I still need to take a shower as well, because I look a little bit haggard. How was the skiing? Hey, Ruben, I haven't been skiing, Ruben. I actually haven't been skiing in like 20 something years. So I'd probably die if I went skiing, which probably wouldn't bode well for minting. So I've stayed off the slopes, but it looks like it would be awesome. Lots of snow here. Thanks, Francis. Thanks, DEFCON 0. And big shout out to Ruben. Just full transparency. Ruben was the friend that called me this morning and kind of beat me up a bit. And I appreciate that, Ruben. You know, hats off. And I took those words to heart. And, you know, sometimes you need somebody to kind of push the honest truth in your face. And so I appreciate that, man. Seriously. 10-year-old beers. Yep, that's about right, Pedro. It went from about 100 down to 30. Okay. All right, yeah. Well, we'll have a look at Chain. I'll have a look at Chainlink. Hopefully, it's not classifiable as a security. Thanks, Mark. Okay. All right, guys. That's it. I'm gonna have to call it a session. Thank you guys for being here. I'll let you guys know how it goes in Davos. I'm gonna be on Telegram later tonight. I'm flying back in the morning, early morning, back to Talon. So I'm gonna have to leave here quite early in the morning. So you might catch me on Telegram while I'm getting driven into Zurich or on the train quite early this morning. So we'll see how that goes down. Thanks, Jet Fuel. All right, guys. Catch you guys later. Appreciate it. Spend some time with friends and family. Actually, one thing I want to do before I go, hold on. We missed the news stories, but this new feature, I want to make sure I get this. So Kevin explains crypto. We're going to do this one for you guys. So my topic this week is my word this week, or I guess phrase, off blockchain transaction. So off chain transaction, basically. So everybody knows, I guess, or everybody should know. And if you don't know, I guess I could explain what blockchain is, but that'll be for another day. So all transactions on a blockchain happen in blocks. So an amount of transactions fits into a block. That block is then basically linked to the previous block and then linked to the next block. And that creates the blockchain, or the chain of blocks. An off-chain transaction is a transaction that's confirmed outside of that chain. So normally inside a block, the block gets all the transactions, and then there needs to be some type of consensus. They need to be confirmed. So other people that have access to that blockchain are basically going to say, yes, this happened, yes, this happened. And those are your confirmations, right? When you go off-chain is normally done like the Lightning Network, for example, off-chain. What happens is that they do an off-chain confirmation near instantly, and then they simply wait for the transaction to actually be fully confirmed on the blockchain. So obviously they do a little bit of risk mitigation, so they're not just confirming transactions that aren't legitimate. But the essential thing is off blockchain or off-chain transaction is a transaction that happens and is confirmed initially outside of the actual blockchain. So there you go, guys. That's the word of the day, or the phrase of the day. I'm gonna check one more time just to make sure we don't have any additional I will watch the movie. Alexander, for you, I'm going to try to watch it. It's probably not going to be for the next 10 days or so, but I will watch it. And then I'll let you know what I think. So, all right, guys, that's it for me. Have a great weekend. Spend some time with family, loved ones, friends. I will see you guys on Telegram. And cool. Sounds good. And see you guys soon. Thank you, Alexander. Appreciate that. See you guys. All right. Cheers.